Okay, so hello everybody. Today is Thursday, August the 17th, and we are continuing in our book study or book reading of the book entitled Flight. So Harriet, would you like to take it away?
Yes, I will. Before we get started, let us take in a deep, full, cleansing breath. And as we exhale, we let go of all negativities, diseases, illnesses, lack, thoughts of negativity. And let us be grateful for this time that we have together, reading and deciphering, and hopefully gaining some knowledge and understanding and direct sense of direction from this book of Flight, a quantum fiction novel by Vanna Bonta. And as we read and listen and try to understand what's going on there, what in the lives of the characters of this book can apply to us, that we can use, what lessons that they learning that we too can participate in. And with that, I say, and so it is.
So it is. And so it is.
I just to keep everybody up to date, a quick review of the main characters in our book. Michael J. Orion is a writer, and he's the protagonist of the book and of the book Flight. And he is writing a book, and the protagonist in his book is Aria Flight. And her, I guess, so what would be considered her soulmate and very close friend is a character by the name of Jarian. And like I said, he's a soulmate, close friend of Aria's. And there are two characters that seem to be significant in the plot, as well as in Mendel's life, the main protagonist. But I'm not too sure whether they are real or the names are fictional names on real friends of Mendel. We'll figure that out as we go along. And that is Loptor and Juristak. Any questions before we continue on chapter 8? Nope. Chapter 8. As Mendel stood in the doorway of the therapist's office, he wondered where he was going to begin. A million things clamored within him to be heard. He wiped his palms against his blue jeans discreetly in anticipation of a handshake. Dr. Alfred Kofkiff sat behind a desk. Leather everywhere accentuated the seriousness of the room. Please, he gestured Mendel to a chair. You won't tell Miss Wilford, Mendel asked of the psychiatrist as he sat down. Dr. Kofkiff's inquisitive gaze perched on the top rim of his glasses like a bird indecisive about taking flight. Without really extending himself past that point, he assured Mendel all visits are strictly confidential. She's been recommending I come to see you for some time, Mendel told him with a little self-effacing laugh as he sat down. I'd rather tell her myself, if I tell her at all, that I finally did. You're not here on Sandra's behalf, are you? Alfred Kofkiff asked. He executed a preliminary analysis of the new subject. Under stress, late 30s, holds himself tightly in the shoulders. A laissez-faire about the young man's general appearance bordered on neglect. Oh, no, no. I decided to come for myself, Mendel told him, running his hand through his brown hair. He could feel Dr. Kofkiff's scrutiny all over him, but it wasn't as uncomfortable as his preconceptions of therapy. Well, then, what was it? A quizzical look from Mendel prompted him to complete his question. What made you decide you needed help? Mendel thought about it. He answered, the new book I'm writing. Well, not the book actually. I just keep thinking all the time. Wait, let me back up, he sighed, took a deep breath. That's all right. Take it easy. Just say whatever comes. You don't have to worry about filtering it, Dr. Kofkiff soothed. That's not it. I just want to express the actuality, Mendel told him. I want to be accurate in my descriptions, so you'll know what's going with me. No defensiveness or denial going on. I'm not sure yet, Mendel introspected. What's denial? All right, then, tell me about the book. It wasn't a book, actually. That's what I was saying. What were you saying? Mendel paused to surmount a ridge of annoyance that was densifying. He breathed deep, stared at the rug. Finally, he said, the girl. Dr. Kofkiff was perching over his glasses again, this time in an unspoken question. Mendel rubbed the inside of his palm with his thumb, alternating between each hand as he spoke. At first, I guess I knew she was based on, well, sort of a friend fantasy. A dream lover? Sort of, yes. But the more I wrote about her, the more I felt Mendel had difficulty admitting it. Yes. The more I felt she exists, he blurted. His and the analyst's eyes met, caution at either end. The other day, I actually believed I saw her. A hallucination? I guess so. Mendel did not want to admit it wasn't real. I don't know. Were you on anything? No, Mendel informed him. I do drink sometimes. That night, I started drinking after I saw her. I wrote down her demise. I wrote about her demise. Then I couldn't contact her. Saw her, contact her. Dr. Kofliff scribbled notes. Go on, he told Mendel. That's the other thing. I haven't been able to write since then. I took a drink, then went on another binge. Didn't eat for a few days. I became afraid. I think about dying. I think about how easy it is to die. I look at my body, and it all seems so futile sometimes. Do you ever feel detached? Detached, that's right. I knew that was it. Mendel hung his head. I suppose so. Suppose that's what it is, he mumbled. I used to think that was some power I had. I used to think I was some kind of being who, a little dry laugh from Dr. Kofkiff interrupted him. He was scribbling something in a notebook. I'm with you, he told Mendel at bay. He held Mendel at bay while he finished the notes. Dr. Kofkiff glanced up to find Mendel was looking at him earnestly. Any comments or questions so far?
No.
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. A dry.
This is again. This is deep. This is this is a trip. So I'm
It is.
enjoying
It is. It really is. For some reason, Mendel was noticing how pink the psychiatrist's cheeks were. The skin was smooth and pink, reminiscent of a pig's. As Dr. Kofkin peered back across the massive desk from behind his fortress of books and leather, an acute desire to laugh seized Mendel. He looked down at his fingers, pretending to be engrossed in an imaginary something on his hand. What is so funny about pink cheeks? He checked himself. It wasn't just the pink. The psychiatrist's entire visage was ludicrous. All that earnestness is synthetic. For all the concentration the psychiatrist was sustaining on his carefully prepared, calm visage, Mendel decided he hadn't an inkling to what was going on inside another human being. He quickly tried to think of something serious, the death of his grandfather, anything to dissolve the laughter that was shaking inside him and threatening to erupt. When he had successfully quelled the nervous, internal bobbing that would have escaped his laughter, Mendel looked up again. He managed a serious face to convey interest and close attention. He even knit his eyebrows to muster seriousness. Then he lost it and laughed. Had Mendel not been looking directly at the psychiatrist when he burst out laughing, an explanation may have been easier. He could feel the psychiatrist's unwavering evaluation of him, yet the more he tried to stop laughing, the harder laughter seized him. That smooth face, the eyes that perched wisely with no connection to soul, seemed hilariously funny. Suspicion visibly accumulated on the analyst's face. He's thinking I'm insane. Better do something. Mendel grappled for control, looking away, grasping at an excuse. I just thought about the science fiction convention. I'll be receiving an award, he said as he studied. He rambled on, trying to make sense. Sometimes problems can seem pretty serious, but put it all into perspective, life is really not so bad. Maybe there's more truth than you're laughing than when you're crying. I feel better already. That's all I need. Someone to clinically diagnose me as insane. Mendel coughed and composed himself in the chair once more, looking up attentively. I will look forward to reading your novel, Kofkin said. Thank you, Doctor, Mendel replied. Alfred Kitkoff made some notes, manic depressive among them. Let me ask you this, he preambled while jotting them, then looked up. Can you describe this woman? Yes, Mendel was glad for an opportunity to do so. She loves justice and aspires to honor. She loves beauty. She works at keeping her word, being fair. She's disciplined. She's kind. She's very intelligent. Not just smart, but truly intelligent. You see, she has a spirit. A spirit. A spirit? Yes, Mendel said. She was a thought being. That's unusual. Really? How so? Mendel asked. Looking for some clue to himself, with a knowing gesture of the eyebrows, Kofkin said, most men don't dream of thought. I'll put it that way. Mendel considered the comment and concluded, oh, I don't know. There's a media image, but even the most sex-motivated guys I know secretly crave something else, especially the ones who go to bed with women they can't stand. As Mendel noted, Kafka's interest became more than clinical. He began getting the sense that he was in control, a sense familiar to him. Once again, he was with yet another someone who would not be able to offer any seniority of thought. Interesting, Kafka commented, finding it so on a personal level. What does your fantasy look like? She could make herself appear however she wanted to, when she wanted to be seen. Kafka ruminated this. It is convenient, I suppose, that she can change her appearance at will. Do you have her do so to suit your first for variety? No, it isn't like that at all. Mendel became defensive. Tell me about her. She's perfect. The doctor honed in. Ah, but perfect to you is not perfect to me. Let me give you an example. How tall is she? That's just it. She's really beautiful. She's a soul. It has nothing to do with her body. But you said you saw her. In the last chapter, she was trapped. She was being permanently materialized into a human female. Dr. Kofkif paused, pursued a possibility. When she became permanently material, as you say, did this disappoint you? In a way, I felt worried about her. When she took on a physical form, was she less perfect? Kofkif asked. I'm not sure. For example, one man might fantasize a woman, long, thin legs. Dr. Kofkif illustrated. Modern image used to market dresses like Sandra. Mendel interjected. Red hair or black hair, Kofkif was saying. What if, when a woman materializes, she becomes boring? Is suddenly not as perfect as one dreamed her? No, not at all. I see where you're going. No, she could have had black hair or red hair or green hair. It wouldn't matter. But what color hair did she have? Blonde, as a matter of fact. I see, Kofkif nodded. Blue eyes by chance? Well, yes. Mendel found himself becoming defensive. Tall, legs, bust. She's not skinny. She's not tall or a classic build. She's comfortable. But this has nothing to do with her physical appearance per se. Mendel did not like the tone this was taking. Now we're getting somewhere. We are? Of course. Mendel watched expectantly. She is a contour image. A what? A dream girl is a contour image of your own mind. She's a comfort and pleases you. Whatever makes you feel confident and manly, Dr. Kofkif was enumerating with detail. You are afraid the more real she becomes, or permanently material, as you say, the less perfect she will be. You are outgrowing your fantasy. No, but she knows me. She understands me. I felt her. Mendel struggled for words to describe it. It's like feeling her all over me, inside me. She's there. It's as if one day she's going to come to me. Sure, Kifkoff replied assuringly. As if one day I'll find her. The desperation in Mendel's voice did not go unnoticed. Dr. Kofkif admitted a dry little smile. It can feel very real, he said, paused, and then, as if dropping a bomb, he added, women like this do not exist, except in your mind. Don't you believe in great love, Mendel asked? Alfred Kofkiff explained, the true love syndrome is one of the most common, everybody looking for that special someone. It's a syndrome? Mendel felt himself thinking. Dr. Kofkiff smiled congenially and nodded. Have you ever wanted to get her out of your mind? No, not really. In fact, I've been worried, Mendel admitted confidently. I haven't been able to see her lately. Since she's been turned into a physical human form, it's as if she's dead. Dead? Kofkiff mused. She became matter, flesh. I haven't been able to write since then. I see, Kofkiff pronounced. More curious, don't you think? Curious? Mendel felt hope. That you would call her dead when she becomes physical. Usually, death means a person losing a physical body, not gaining one. Yes, I guess so, Mendel admitted earnestly. He began talking mostly to himself. Maybe she's not dead. Maybe she's just in another world. You can't see the person, but the person just entered a different dimension. Dr. Kofkiff confirmed delusion in the patient. Do you mean perhaps this woman who you once could see in your thoughts has actually become physical somewhere else? I find it difficult to say anything is impossible, Doctor, Mendel said solemnly. A quantum physicist might agree. Of course, Kofkiff said. He approached Mendel from another angle. Is this fantasy helping or interfering with your sex life? What is a sex life? Mendel asked. Do I have an eating life, a sleeping life, a learning life? Why would sex have a separate life? Dr. Kofkiff went off on another ramification. Does the fantasy keep you from enjoying other women? No. You talk about women as if they're popcorn. The position of women just isn't filled at the moment. He sat back and felt Dr. Kofkiff's gaze on him like suction. Maybe it did, a little, interfere, with Sandra. After I knew someone like Aria existed, I compared them. Aria, that's her name. Oh, I see. Dr. Kofkiff noted Mendel's referring to her as if she existed, not knowing where to go. For the moment, he said, some men use their fantasies to be with whomever. I don't. I wouldn't want to be with a woman and think of someone else, if that's what you mean, although I've done it. So you're saving yourself from this woman, for this woman, Kofkiff explored. Mendel was off in a high-pitched laugh. That's funny, he laughed. Some more. That's funny. Then his amusement subsided. Mendel said, I just believe in concentration, body and soul. Alfred Kofkiff, studied the young man. He delved into the confidence Mendel seemed to have about his powers. You have a high opinion of your sexual performance. Suddenly somber. I don't view it as performance, Mendel said. What was the problem with Sandra? She told you about me, hasn't she? Mendel didn't expect a reply, he went on. I just didn't. He struggled for words to explain it, hurrying so as not to have the psychiatrist finish the sentence for him, a habit he was finding very aggravating. Didn't want to be intimate with her. Know what I mean? Did that start with the fantasies of the girl? That's what Sandra thought, but I wouldn't have picked Sandra as a friend. She used sex. I didn't like her, but the sensation was pleasurable. I didn't act with integrity. I just couldn't. I couldn't. His voice trailed off. I couldn't lie anymore. Silence swelled in the room. Kofkin spoke. Would you like to meet the fantasy woman? Mendel liked the idea. It surprised him. Well, yes, I guess so. But how? Hypnosis, Dr. Kofkin said. Now just come over here. He pushed himself back from his desk and motioned Mendel over towards a vine in a corner of the room. Am I crazy, doctor? That, I'm afraid, would not be a clinical diagnosis. Why not? Let's say it's not specific enough. Mendel felt foreboding, but he sat down anyway and reclined. As you can see, Kafka said, the dreaming of a perfect woman might be inherent to every male of the species, but ask every man to describe the perfect woman, and you will come up with as many variations as there are men. Mendel could not dispute that point, but marveled at how the psychiatrist kept diverging from the issue. The point was not that she was perfect, but that he truly loved a woman who logically did not exist. I think I cured myself, Dr. Mendel sat up. You see, the problem is that I love a woman who doesn't exist. I think you have a confusion with sex, Dr. Kifkoff analyzed. You do not respect the woman once she has become physical. Really? It didn't sound like him, but Mendel was willing to contemplate it. Let's discover where the denial is coming from. Denial? What's wrong with denial if something isn't true? Sex isn't everything. It's not in my toothpaste, like they say. Sex is not all that makes me a man. Mendel protested. My character, virtues, honor, beauty. Yes, of course, Dr. Kofkin interrupted. Close your eyes. You are getting very sleepy. You're becoming sleepy now. Just focus on my voice. Listen to my voice, to my words. Relax. You are relaxing. You are letting go. This is like a novel, Mendel uttered to himself, his eyes flying open. Amused by the absurdity of the situation, he quickly propped himself up on his elbow. The motion was so sudden, it startled Alfred Kafka, who retracted his neck into his shirt and clutched the lapel of his collar as he listened to Mendel. I wrote about a place called Z-Zone, where beings are sent to eternal sleep, sentenced to oblivion. And look at what you're doing, trying to put me to sleep. Everything I write has a parallel in the world around me. Good, Dr. Kirchhoff placated him. Let's see if we can get somewhere with this. Sorry, I just had to tell you that, Mendel apologized. Lying back down, it's really amazing, all the synchronicity, the coincidence. Yes, of course. Close your eyes now, listen to my voice. You are getting very, very sleepy. You feel heavy, relaxed. As Dr. Koff's voice droned on and on. Mendel found himself resisting. I don't want to go too deep to sleep to find out what's bothering me. I want to be awake. I want to know myself. Any questions or comments?
Man, this book is messing me up. This is T-Man Unplugged all day long. I'm walking around grabbing my books like, okay, why do I have so much in common with this writer, and then the writer of the writer and the writer of the writer?
Right.
I'm just amazed because it's very similar, and especially from a point of view of a man's point of view. Just to step in from a man's point of view, I do understand that. That's me and Penelope, me and Miss Harriet, me and Miss Arskino. You all know I'm not really a dating person because of those reasons that he just said. Like, I don't know, I'm not saving myself, but I don't want to just give myself willy-nilly to any and everything just for a habit or for
Right.
creature comfort. I don't need that type of creature comfort. I can do that. I can do that. It's something more intimate that is being looked into. And what I really like about the story, because I was surprised when they started speaking of, we want to do hypnotism. I can't be hypnotized. I've not found anyone strong enough to do it yet. And
wow.
I've had psychiatrists. I had a psychiatrist when I was a child. I was a problem. That was a big problem. And they used to try to be like, oh, well, we'll go for the root of what's going on. Let's see if we can hypnotize it. You can't hypnotize me. I can't be hypnotized. So
Yeah.
this is a trip. I'm really understanding this story. And the more I keep trying to kick myself out of this story on like, Dad, I feel that, the more it keeps pulling me in.
Yeah. I've never been able to be hypnotized either, but I can, how do I want to put it? I can get so focused and clear my mind and to just have what I'm actually doing, that the surroundings area and the people around me just dissolve into nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you can hypnotize yourself then.
yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
I guess maybe that's it. I've never thought of it that way, but I'm very able to do that, and I'm just, I've tried gone to different things where they've hypnotized you and stuff, and I just not able to have that happen. But yet I can clear my mind to where it's completely empty, and I think that's why I'm able to fall asleep very easily.
Well,
But
what
I'm enjoying the book.
Well, what I got out of this chapter. Okay, first of all, the psychiatrist is already knows Sandra, because they mention it right there at the beginning. So it seems very much like, okay, y'all remember the movie Total Recall? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Like they had to send somebody in to readjust the thing to make it look right. I'm just really thinking that how deep the writer and the writer and the writer goes, because he's in all of his actions, He's saying, this is just what I'm writing. I'm living what I'm writing right now. He's telling everybody that. It's like they really don't want him to wake up to that fact. So I think that this is really getting to be very, very interesting. And I still think that now I believe more and more that he is Jordan, right?
Jarian.
Jarian. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And Arya is meeting up with him now that she's in human form. They're gonna meet up together. So that's what I think. So yeah, this is such a story in a story in a story in a story. It's amazing.
It is. It's intriguing. It really
Yeah.
is.
Uh-huh.
It really is. Any other comments?
No, we're good on
Okay.
time too. It's 7:40.
Chapter 9. What time is it? Okay.
It's
we got time.
7:40.
Okay.
We got good time.
I just didn't want to run over. Chapter 9. Coming out of days of drinking, Mendel groped for a balance. He had been treading the world within and the world without. He sought to mediate the disparity between his own world, where he only needed to think something and it was so, and the world of walls which did not allow one to walk through them. In one he ruled, the other, called reality by most, was a tyranny where walls reigned and consistently rebuked him as meaningless. Yet something about it also taunted him. The outer world seemed a ballet of interaction where something else was at play besides sheer force and matter. Somehow he could affect it. He felt he saw evidence of his influence on surrounding reality. Coincidences? They beckoned me like cosmic smiles. Yet the process of perceiving the maze, as he called his endeavor, and attaining wisdom often defeated Mendel. The crimes and conditions to which humanity seemed adjusted slashed at his awareness as the atrocities they were and caused him unbearable anguish. Mendel drank to ease the meaningless, unreasoning pain that dug at him daily. Although he held in disdain those who never questioned their existence and fought against what he termed the comfort zone of oblivion, the very thing he cursed was surreptitiously conquering him. He shared with the rest of the human race, it seemed, a desire to escape from what anonymous gnawing pain. Alfred Kofkes accompanied Mendel down the long aseptic corridor toward the elevators. They walked in silence, haunted by what he had seen through a glass partition in the corridor. Mendel could not liberate himself from the image of a young woman being wheeled away to electroshock against her will. He was told he was not supposed to have seen the involuntary treatment ward. Her scream, God, those screams. He regretted having come to a place he inherently distrusted, dismissing it as just a feeling. He had ignored his own inner reality. Now he vowed to listen to his instinct. I may not always know what the reason is, but there is one. allowing himself to be electrically shocked every time he thought about taking a drink of whiskey was not his idea of help. He had a pretty low opinion of himself at times, but reducing himself to the level of a stimulus response slave flew in the face of everything from which he deceived self-respect. I am not an organism. I possess a will. I want to be awake. I want to understand. Mendel's face darkened. The more he thought about having voluntarily put himself on the premises, and he shuddered, thinking about some of the others there. These people were not all there of their own volition. Many, like that girl he had seen, had been signed away, prescribed to have portions of their lives simply removed. This is not therapy. It was more an admission of failed therapy, Mendel concluded. Can't fix it, so destroy it. Are you still thinking about the patient? Patient, right. The person I saw, Mendel said, upholding her as a human being. A little, he admitted. He tried not to appear glum. I'm sorry you had to see that on your tour of the Institute. It's not pleasant, I know, Dr. Kofkiv told Mendel as he accompanied him to the elevator. Not pleasant, Mendel rebelled with every iota of his being at the thought. Just get out of here. Just keep it cool and get out of here. He placed one foot after the other on the shiny, clean floor. Some cases only respond to electric shock. After the treatment, they will be fine, Dr. Kofkiv said. Her family has her best interests in mind. They stepped into the elevator. Mendel watched Kofkiv push the I or the L for lobby. The thought of the woman made him close his eyes and cringed. Her hair, wild serpents, stuck all over her perspiring face. Those screams, she screamed and screamed and screamed, begging him not to do it while they forced her away. It is for her own good that the foremost thought one must keep in mind, Dr. Kofkiv was saying, obliterating her memory, electroshocking her past out of her existence. But let's worry about you, me, Mendel reflected. He opened his eyes and laughed nervously. I'm afraid there is no cure for me, Dr. Kofkiv, he said affably. You may think this way now, but you yourself say you are up again, down again. If you change your mind, call and I'll prescribe something. Drug, right. But just what I need to help me really get insight into reality. Tried that, been there. Call me when you know your schedule. As they stepped out of the elevator, Mendel turned and looked squarely at Dr. Kofkiv. Within the boundaries of seconds, an entire silent soliloquy took place. Living is a war, Mendel told Dr. Kofkiv. The rest he spoke in his head with his entire being. Some of us hold out, some give in early, but eventually it wears you down. Someone is mean to us for no good reason. A wish that's dashed and never happens. We lose. The death of someone we know. A betrayal by someone we loved and trusted. Someone cheats us. Someone doesn't care when you need them. A lot of someones just don't give a damn. Too many times alone when somebody should have been there. It adds up. Little hurt here, little wound there. This dream gone, this belief laughed at, this ideal shattered. Eventually, you see they just wanted to sell you something. Then into focus comes the stark, meaningless space and time and the self-serving protoplasm that populated. You try to make home, you go home with the face looking a little more tired every day, a little more hurt, a little less happy, a little more heavy, a little more lined. And then what? And for what? Eventually, the walls, ground, and everything solid laughs at you, laughs at your beliefs as it counts the last one you pay out for a solution to reality. You have to put away these beliefs. That's not what the real world operates on. Sure, you learn the ideals in school, but that's not what's being played. So you pay. You pay out every hope and ideal. You pay belief and love. You pay high ideals bigger than self until you're paid out and broke and helpless on your back. Your hair is white if you make it that far, and your skin is sagging, breath to breath with dying and reality, solid and intense goes off, jingling all your dreams in its pocket, laughing at poor, stupid little you who never dared to dream a thing. You have a cure for that? He asked, calmly holding Dr. Kofkiff in his gaze. To the man's silence, Mendel smiled, shook his head, and finally replied for him, I don't think so. As they approached the front entrance, Alfred Kofkiff told Mendel, you are a smart man. You have some very lucid moments. Mendel couldn't help but laugh as he said, that's the problem. We all do. It's my lucidity that will face and find the problems, he vowed, not some artificially imposed program that reduces me to the level of a robot. Standing at farewell attention, placing his hands behind his back, Dr. Kofkiff asked Mendel one last question. Do you think of yourself as sane? No, Mendel replied, having seen the trick in a movie. After a quick farewell, Mendel crossed the lobby, stepped out into the morning air, jaunting down the front steps. He liked the sound of his keys in his pocket. In the parking lot, tremors peeled off him. Sleepy, sleepy, sleepy. He remembered as he unlocked his car door and slid in the seat behind the steering wheel. Doctor, I can't seem to get drowsy, Mendel reenacted, then mimicked the analyst's tone. I see, he pronounced, seriously concerned. He played himself as he adjusted the rearview mirror. What is it, doctor? Mendel looked at himself in the rearview mirror and arranged his face the way Dr. Kofkiff had done. He shook his head slowly back and forth and rubbed his shirt. You always have to be in control, don't you? He had responded, I like to be. Is there something wrong? Back to the doctor. Just a minute, neurosis, just a mild neurosis. Every once in a while, we run into some cases who don't go under. Under? I don't want to go under. The doctor was grave. That's precisely the point. At least you admit it. Cold crawled up Mendel's back. He became suddenly self-conscious about talking to himself. He looked around to see if anyone were watching. No one had seen him. He inserted and turned the key in the ignition, then disengaged the emergency brake and let the engine idle to warm up. There's nothing wrong with me. His thoughts turned to the scene he had inadvertently witnessed of the person being wheeled away to be shocked against her will. Suddenly, Mendel's eyes widened, his mouth opened, and he stared at what seemed to be a clue of some kind. What was happening to the girl in the institute was essentially the same thing that was happening to his heroine in the novel. His last chapter had been about her struggling to save herself from the doom of her past being taken from her. He was writing that, and now he had seen this. Another coincidence? This is amazing. Mendel maneuvered his automobile out of its parking space. His mouth was still open, his eyes still wide in excitement over the idea of a clue that was offering some insight to his existence. There is some kind of synchronicity going on here. Heading toward the gates, he turned on the radio. Because I want a girl to call my own, I want a dream lover so I don't have to dream alone. The song Dream Lover played. Whoa, Mendel exclaimed. Having been notified of Mendel's departure, the security guard had activated the gate opening and was checking off something on a clipboard. The man smiled pleasantly as the silver sedan slowly drove by. Morning, how are you? Morning, fine, thanks, Mendel replied cordially. Past the gates, Mendel felt electrical charge dinging up and off of him. Morning? Yes, it is morning. Welcome, and thank you for volunteering. He listened to the gears of his silver Toyota whine before changing into the higher ones, enjoying the feel of a tight machine operating under his control. There's nothing wrong with me, he said. He felt the wind on his face. There's nothing wrong with me, he repeated. I'm just awake. Any comments or questions at this?
He is
Go ahead.
awake. Well, I was going to say, that's one of the things with society. They expect us all to fall into a certain mold. And if you don't, then they have, like electric shock, different types of therapy, different types of prescriptions and medicines and all of that to get us to follow the society's view, the dominant society's view of how life should be. When in essence, as we wake up, truly wake up to our inner consciousness and to our awareness of our surroundings, we don't fit into their mold because we're not supposed to fit into their mold. We are supposed to be these free sovereign beings of light and love that, we wake at different times. And we have to kind of recognize that in other people and allow them to be the way they are unless they ask to be different. And I think that's what Mendel is experiencing, that he is so awake. And his writing is almost like his writing is his therapy and is him being able to acknowledge and witness his awakening into true life, not the life that he was born, this human life. At least that's what I'm experiencing as you're reading.
And I agree. And I was thinking about this whole thing. And I think, and this is just my opinion, creative people that are considered, and I think, and I'm not going to say we're in the minority, but there are those that fear being considered weirdos, because I think society would look on people like that as being weird And just like that girl, now I don't know the story behind the girl, the patient that he encountered that was being taken to electrotherapy, electroshock therapy, what the reason is. But like you said, Zarkina, they expect for us to fit into a mold, and if we don't fit into it, they do everything they can to try and reprogram us or redefine us to fit into that mold. Because I don't hear of it so much now, but in the past I've heard of parents, ministers, other people that have had to counsel or talk with or deal with a person that's homosexual, and they send them to these different they give them all these different, they find ways to try and make them change. But if you're born a certain way, that's who you are.
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't know how this fits in, but this popped into my head. Yesterday at bowling, people, when they bowl and they don't do it right, they might swear or say something. And it hit me, and I told the one gentleman, I said, there's really nothing as swearing. It's how we feel and the force we put behind the words that we are saying.
Mhm.
You could say, oh, honey, and it could come out as, oh, honey, which might sound kind of negative, or,
Harsh,
oh, honey,
yeah.
So it's how we, the feeling that we have, an intention and force that we put behind something. And that woman, the patient, she was probably fully awake and knew, what, um, what she wanted, and she was being put into this position that she didn't want to be in, and nobody was listening to her.
Mhm.
You're just going along with what they felt was right for her and not listening to her. And that's one of the things that in Inner Haven, I feel, is we listen to each other. We may not agree, but we listen and we sense the heart behind what each of us are saying to one another and how we
Exactly.
feel about something. So
Exactly.
that's why this group is so special, I think.
And I think what I'm seeing here in this chapter, what we've just read, is that he's living on like several dimensions, or he's going from one dimension to another dimension, and he's living um he's living that phase of going between one and the other, because he everything that's is happening in one life is happening in what he's writing about at the same time. So in his mind and in his world, everything is happening all at once. So I I'm I'm just kind of interested in seeing, what dimension is he living in, or from. Yeah.
But he's in a sense showing how they interlock the different dimensions.
Mhm.
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 Any comments, Andre?
I'm just kind of like, this dude got me mad. This dude is
Which one? Mendel or the psychiatrist?
well, no, and I mean the author. Period.
Right,
Oh,
right. Okay.
Because this is very, it's and I say that because this is very similar to the things that on and how I'm writing. So going from Mendel's personality, from where I'm seeing, it's a writer's point of view of where I write from, and it's very similar. So I'm just amazed of the similarities for me not to actually know this book, but
Mhm.
to have very similarities. My character is a female character, My character's name is Adeline. My character is in, and I do pull from those things. I do leave that alone sometimes because I'm like, let me put that down, and I do also go, okay, while I'm walking down the street or I'm in the grocery store or anything, I see a woman or a female, and I go, okay, those are the attributes. So I'm understanding, like, okay, those are the attributes of that. Or of course I still look at comic books and things like that, and I'm like, okay, these are the attributes I want this character to be molded in. So I do understand from a writer's point of view, and it can be crazy when you're writing like that, because you know, you're thinking one thing, and then you get in the car and a song turn on the radio, and you like,
Whoa.
I was just writing. I didn't know that song was gonna come on. Oh, okay.
Right.
So and you can and you can also feel that energy. So I'm thinking of it, looking to see the embrace that as well. So I'm interested to see where this is going, and
Mhm. So
and
even in
we'll,
our dimension.
yeah, I'm still in our
Yeah,
dimension,
even
seeing
in
the
our
same way that
dimension it's
I'm
happening, yeah.
I'm feeling like Neo right now, and while I'm listening to this, I'm feeling like Neo. Like, wait a minute, ain't nothing wrong with our dimension. Yeah, it's something wrong.
Yeah, this is pretty wild. This is pretty wild. Mm,
Any other comments or questions? If not, let's get back to the story.
okay.
Mendel was glad to be home. If anything, the trip to the Institute finally eliminated what he had mistakenly thought of as being procrastination. He felt better just having confirmed to himself that his instinctive doubts and mistrust were justified. Reclining on a rattan seat outside his small house with a cup of tea on the table beside him, propping his feet one on the other, leaning his head and resting on his hand, Mendel looked up at the sky. Gazing into the blue, he often felt himself going beyond the sky into space. He groped his location in the cosmos with fingers of knowledge. His position in the galaxy was clear to him in concept. He was, at that very moment, on one of 9 planets. Earth, a speck of a blue planet that circled an enormous sun, was, in its turn, orbited by a planetoid called a moon. A planetoid called a moon. Mendel took the perspective of being out in space, experiencing the lineup of those balls of mass around the sun: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. He felt as though he actually encompassed the solar system. I can see it. The ritual was a necessary orientation for him, and it was one he often performed, marveling at the microcosms and macrocosms of physical world fabric. The solar system, with its nucleus of sun, did not, by happenstance, resemble an atom. Flight, Mendel imagined, rising, soaring out of his physical body into the perfect blue atmosphere of the morning. If this means I'm detached, so be it, he smiled. Watching a silver jet glinting tiny in the distance, Mendel imagined the people within it turbulently compressed air, and suddenly saw a stewardess maneuvering a cart down the narrow aisle. Maybe thought can actually see. The airplane was beautiful, swaying through air. Air isn't nothing, Mendel considered the principle of lift that was keeping the plane in the sky. When in motion, the curved upper surfaces cause faster displacement and lower pressure of the air above the wings, creating the push that from the air beneath, which lifted the plane off the ground. The first person who knew flight was possible didn't know how it was possible. In fact, there were more things, gravity for one, the dictated specifically how it was not. Mendel imagined how the first flight must have seemed like magic. It still seemed like magic. He followed the jet in its path across the morning blue. Flight. Seeing a thing unattached and suspended gave the sensation that it could just fall at any minute. But it wasn't magic that kept the plane up. It was lift. Air was not merely the absence of solid ground, as people might have at one time viewed it. It was something. Though invisible to the human eye, air was a sea of substance. Miracles are when something fantastic happens, and how hasn't been discovered yet. There is a how possible for all that can be imagined. Mendel speculated, impossibility is the only illusion. He murmured under his breath, human beings were certain they could fly before they even knew about lift, rocket power, and the technical aspects to support them as they put them into orbit. When Mendel returned to the point of view of a human looking through biological eyes, he located the sun in the sky and reminded himself of the daily illusion of rising and setting. The sun didn't move, yet an entire planet of people persisted in saying it rose and set. Illusion. Physical limits and barriers are illusion. With a little effort, Mendel sat up, perceived the reality of gravity, yet because heroes dreamed they could fly, that was real now. It seemed to him that most, if not all things, were secondary to the will, reality followed. Perhaps the relationship between thought and reality is totally symbiotic, with thought being the preliminary animator. The spirit of flight was the very spirit of imagination to Mendel. No matter how solid reality was, its seed was the dream. The dream, the ability to dream, to conceive, to imagine was his life source, his power. And Mendel felt it, felt himself again. His thoughts went to area of flight. Like air, her first name reflected her as a soul, inevitable to the human eye, but of substance nonetheless. Mendel reached for his cup, pressed the curve of ceramic against his palms. The moment one is no longer earthbound, that is the spirit of flight. He drank the last of his tea, now cooled, and got up from the rattan chair he felt he could write. Letting the screen door slam behind him, Mendel went inside the house. And now he's writing again. He's back at his computer. And what he's writing, the Laureate ripped through the atmospheres and dimensions. Its travel was not along vectors, nor linear in any way. It traveled as if absorbed and infused by densities and reality. Out of range of the barrage of overwhelming electrical voltages, Aria was helplessly attached to the Lyriad by energy. As she manifested into molecules, the molecules inextricably interacted with other forms. As she transmitted universe to universe, she was not even aware of herself as herself. The power to create, the power of her very will had been usurped, knocked out of her, occupied by and channeled to activate the very electrical program that pinned her. Hurling away from Z-Zone toward other reality, Aria was stunned, spinning in a confusion that eluded her. She was no longer guided, but dominant in a mishmash of thoughts and programming. Her very essence undermined, fooled into believing that she was everything she felt, not the source of feeling. Beside her was a thought being known as Onyx, also stunned beyond self-awareness, without even a glimmer of awareness of surrounding existence. Aria, my Aria, Mendel breathed, desperate for her safety. He could feel her again. That's the end of chapter 9. Any comments or questions?
Well, I
I
was
was
gonna
just
say
looking
he's
ahead.
he's tuning into the elements and into
Say
the
that
molecular. He's tuning into the elements and into the molecular bodies that we are.
Yeah. And I think that session, because I get the impression that he's just returned home from Dr. Kofka's office, and he had a cup of tea and he decided to relax for a moment, and that between the session with Dr. Kofka and seeing that airplane and thinking about the mechanics and the physics and all the science that goes into that plane being able to lift off and fly through the air was kind of like the thing that he needed to jolt him back into his occupation of writing.
Yeah, it was his trigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? I've really, looking at chapter 10, I really didn't want to get into that because I would prefer having complete a whole
Right.
chapter rather than picking it up
Yeah.
in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So if there are any and we only have another 10 minutes, and I don't see myself completing this whole chapter in 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're deep chapters. As
Yeah.
She's a very
Well,
deep writer.
yeah. Well,
She is.
yeah. And I like the way I like the way that it's set up, that you can see how the things that we imagine in our lives actually become what our lives become. You know, the way that is happening to him in this book. Mendel, how Mendel is experiencing what he's writing at the same time. When when I think about my life, the thing that I imagined last year, I'm living that experience now. So I can see how how these things overlap.
Yeah, how they manifest.
Yeah.
Really. I find it very interesting that you said the things that you thought about last year, they're manifesting now. And we experience it every day. Experiences that we have, things that manifest in our lives. They begin as thoughts maybe yesterday, maybe a couple of decades back, and manifesting now and having been thought about far into the past. We might have even forgot we even had that thought. You know?
Isn't there a saying or something? I'm not exactly sure how it goes, but in essence, it's, say the word and it shall be so, or something like that.
Yeah, I get where you're going with that, and I can say that I know what you're talking about, but I can't, like you, I can't
Yeah, I can't think
recall
of
the
something
exact
else
phrase. Yeah,
that only say the word and it shall be so, or something.
yeah.
But and time, the one book I'm reading talks about the third dimension as being the physical, the height, width, and depth, and the fourth dimension being time. And as Penelope was saying, he's living in several different dimensions simultaneously, and he's awakening to each dimension as he's experiencing and living it, and it's coming out in his writing. It's almost like as he's thinking about what he's going to write, and then he writes it, and then he rereads it, it's like a aha moment for him. That he's written it and he knows he wrote it, but it's like, well, I didn't think of it that way, but it's manifesting and coming into being. Like you said about Aria, her first part of her name is air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so.
Comments, Andre?
No, I'm just actually intrigued this evening. I'm just actually just like, keep your mouth shut. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, but it is a good story, and we can still see that we're still being set up for something that, because we're still very much in the beginning.
In the beginning of the book, yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten to page 100 yet, and this is almost 400 pages. So we're only a quarter of a way through.
Yeah.
I would say about a quarter of a way through, yeah.
So
yeah, so there's a lot that can happen in the
right, because there's so many subplots.
Exactly. And I just thought about I need to add to my cast of characters, and I keep forgetting about him. Poor little Onyx. The dragon that is her companion, her constant companion. And also I need to add Sandra. I'm not exactly sure how much of a role, but she's very much in the picture, so I need to include her in the cast of characters when I start the reading each week. So that everybody knows who's who. I enjoy reading books where I am introduced to a character, and then as the story progresses, those individuals are brought in, and you can see the connection, where they're being introduced and all, and they're brought in. Because sometimes I've read books where a character is introduced like in chapter 1, 2, or 3, and you don't meet them again until you get to chapter 11 or 12, or even later than that. Who is this? What did they come from? Kind of thing. So just me and my little idiosyncrasy, that's all.
Well, I've only read a couple of novels. Mostly what I've read has been nonfiction, so there aren't any characters necessarily in them,
Mhm.
because they haven't been novels. It's only been the last, well, the book that we did was the novel, and that. But so I'm finding it kind of interesting.
Yeah. No, that,
But
yeah.
I also
There,
feel
there
that
was a
each of
time
those
when now,
characters- I was going to say
say,
each of those characters is a part of him,
right, right.
and bringing out some of his,
One of his personalities.
yeah,
Mhm.
but not necessarily a personality
But-
that needs therapy, that type of thing. It's just, a part of
Right.
him.
Well, I think what I'm getting out of this is his writing is really therapeutic for him.
Yeah.
And he experienced a little bit of a writer's block there for that period of time. And that's why he went to see Dr. Kofkin.
Yeah.
That's my impression. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, that's what I got. And I also feel that he realized when he saw that patient, that made him realize, this is not for me.
Mhm,
I'm going to go
mhm.
back to what I was doing, even though I'm blocked and not able to do it. It will resurface.
Exactly.
But that, just like the plane was a trigger for him, I think
Mhm.
that patient at the center or that clinic was a trigger for him to realize that I don't want this to numb my brain or to make me into, so to speak, a zombie.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people in this
I'll
world
choose
that
my,
are
I'll choose
zombies.
my, yeah.
Like,
His attitude is, I'll choose my poison. I'm not gonna let you do it.
yeah.
Because he
Of
seems
course,
to.
that's how it works. Wait a minute, before you dose me up, I'll do that myself.
That's
Amen.
right. That's right. That's right. Exactly. Yep.
Well,
That's-
again, it's an intriguing story where we are right now,
Yeah.
and to see where it's going to go.
Mhm.
I am on the edge of my seat. You know,
Yeah.
it definitely has me. It definitely has me thinking not only just about of 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 writing and things like that, but as how we take our time to meditate, and how we allow certain individuals, whether friends, family, or doctors, or anyone, kind of come in and can kind of try to tell you how to reach your achievements, and reach your height. And I think it's being said that everyone is not the same. It's showing that everyone is not the same. So even the most educated individuals um don't know who they are as well. One thing about the doctor is the doctor was smug to me. The character of the doctor so far was very smug to me, and very I can figure this out. I can figure this out. I don't think that I think once we are in something, you have to have passion for it. And it was something that was said that the doctor really did not have passion for psychiatry anymore. It
Hmm.
was just it was just jotting down notes and being very smug and an opinion, instead of letting this individual speak and
Yeah.
get it all out.
Letting him be who
So,
he is.
yeah, so his job is a job. I'm not saying that he doesn't care, but his job has become his robot body. So, when he that's all he knows is to diagnose.
Mhm.
There has to be something wrong. You wouldn't be in my office if there is nothing wrong. And of course, again, with absolute power, absolute corruption,
Mhm.
so I think, it's an emptiness as well into the doctor. So I want to see how that adversary is going to play out, because I do believe that's going to be an adversary.
The
Yeah,
doctor?
because the doctor to me seemed like he was in cahoots with Sandra. You know,
Probably.
he already knew Sandra, and he's the one that the doctor's the one who first brought Sandra up. And
Which as a professional, you're not supposed to do that.
exactly. And
So
then
I
he
believe
did
it's
it
an
all of this
adversary.
weird stuff about you would rather have sex with somebody um that you made up instead of having sex with Sandra. Yeah, because Sandra is gross. I've told you that before. I told her that I don't want to have sex with her.
He was
When
nice. He was like, I don't like it like that.
when Mandel was saying about seeing the doctor as the pig, what came to my mind is this money greedy individual, because
Mhm.
pigs
Mhm.
will eat anything, anywhere, at any time. And somebody who is, like Andre said, he's into his profession, and that's his job, and his job is to get patients for the clinic.
Mhm.
That's how I kind of saw it, and I kind of felt he left Mandel in a sense that, him thinking, I really would like to get this guy as the patient and tap his brain, so to speak. But Mandel wasn't having any part of that, even though that
Mhm.
wasn't mentioned. But
Right.
I feel
So,
Mandel was wise.
Mhm.
yeah, I do believe that that doctor is going to be an adversary. So I am looking
Yeah,
forward to.
for sure.
Yeah.
It just depends on what dimension he's going to be an adversary.
Exactly. And yeah. And they all kind of match up, together at some point.
Mhm.
But this is really interesting. I'm telling you, this would make a great movie.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
This would make a
Yeah.
really good movie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so how do we apply it to our lives? I don't know. I guess for me, it is just um being more creative in my life. Create a mindset so that I am always looking forward to the new, you know. So yeah, I think that that's what I can do with it. What this is showing me, this chapter is showing me today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For okay, for me, it's being and recognizing that each and every single day that I physically wake up, I am also spiritually awakening to the inner me and the consciousness that I'm aware of, and to not doubt and think or feel that I have to be a certain way just because society says that. And if they think I'm weird and different, that's okay, because
Mhm.
that's how I was created to be, is to be true to who I am and to what I am developing into, even though I don't know what the heck that is necessarily, but to accept it and to honor it and respect the same thing happening to each and every person I meet. They may be at a different level in their awakening, but they too are awakening and
Mhm.
realizing the beauty that they are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you don't
yeah.
mind me if you don't mind me, Miss Arskina, I will piggyback off of that to understand my creativity and understand that it is creativity, but it's mine as well. And if others don't understand my creativity, it's not for them. They're not on that dimension. So it's okay for me to keep it to myself or hold it until the individuals that are like-minded will come and understand and can digest it. Some things, so I look at it from that point of view of what I've learned and how I will practice that is to not get discouraged in when I am creating, whether it be with my hands as far as a pen and a pad, or whether it be, with everyday struggle.
Mhm.
So I've had two good very sessions today that that I've come through with two things that are definitely that I can see myself working on for the week. So I'm definitely grateful for that.
Thank you, Andre.
Yeah, for me, I'm with you, Andre. My experiences today, my contacts today, they have all been, to me, can't even think of the word that I want to describe them, but they have all been beneficial, which to me is not powerful enough to describe what they are, what they have been. And to take the lessons that I get out of each session that that I am in with Inner Haven, there's always something, some small element of that session. And when I say small, I don't mean teeny tiny. I mean big enough to hold in my hand, or maybe even too big for me to lift off the ground, to take away and help to make my world more enjoyable. And I am grateful for that. And the characters in this book, when I look at each one of them, I feel that that each of them has a lesson to teach me.
This is a really good book. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, that's it for this evening. Let's see, tomorrow is Friday, so nothing goes on tomorrow. And Saturday, Andre, you gonna just let me know whether you can do the Book of Enoch,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. I'll let you know. I will let you know tomorrow morning. I'll give you a call tomorrow morning to see
Right.
if I gotta go into this physical dimension and actually work hard. I don't feel like it. I understand what homeboy going through. I'm ready to be like, yeah, all right, I'll punch you in your face, man. Don't tell me what to do. Are you good? And like the doctor asked him, do you think you're insane? Yes.
Yes.
And what's
Crazy
wrong with
people
that?
don't know that they crazy. Crazy people don't know that they crazy. I know I'm crazy.
Hmm.
I'm loving
But
every
I will
minute
give
of
it to you. Yeah. And I love every minute of it. You're right. But yes, I will let you know tomorrow morning if Saturday is good for the Book of Enoch. If
Okay.
not, we'll work that out.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Super cool. And then on Sunday, it's a Science of Mind.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hmm. All righty then, everybody. I will see you then,
All
Saturday.
right.
Saturday. Yeah, we'll figure out something.
Okay.
All righty
So-
then.
And everybody have a wonderful evening. Love you
Oh.
all.
All right, love you. Anybody would
Have-
like to close us out in prayer?
I can.
Okay,
No one
thank
else.
you.
Beloved Lord, Almighty God, the source of all that is, was, and will forever be. We thank you for this time that we can come together and share and experience the joy of being a being at this time, in this moment. We thank you for each and every single day. We thank you for awakening us to a consciousness in which each of us is a special part of that. And each of us is a manifestation of your light and your love. Guide us throughout this evening and throughout the rest of this week and throughout the entire time that we are here in these physical bodies. We let it be so. And so it is.
So it is.
So it is.
Bless you.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Oh.
Blessings, everyone.
All righty, everybody. Love you.
Love you. Good night.
Bye.
Night all.